Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with the more complicated questions first of all. Could you tell me your name and the part you play?
I see, okay. My name is Omar Sharif, and I play the part of the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer.
The Sorcerer, what role does the Sorcerer play in Gulliver's Travels?
Well, as you know, Gulliver travels and he meets lots of strange people, rather extraordinary people normally, and in one of his travels he finds himself in a mysterious place, and there's this man who sort of appears while he's lying by the side of the road and takes him into his palace and promises that he's going to get him back to England, which is where Gulliver would like to go. And we discover that this man is a sorcerer. He's really an aristocratic intellectual. He studies history, but instead of reading books about history, what he does is that he summons the characters from the historical books, from the history books. In other words, he makes Alexander the Great appear, or Cleopatra, or King Charles II, and he makes them appear, and he then interrogates them about some events in their lives. And therefore he is a scholar of history through the source, from the source of history itself, which is interrogating the actual characters.
And how does he use Gulliver in his...
Well, you see, the sorcerer, in order to summon an historical character, needs some human blood. Just a drop of human blood, which he puts on this mirror, and this mirror is the gate to the past, as it were, through which these characters come if they smell that human life, which is the smell of life. In other words, this drop of blood represents the blood of life, and that's how he brings them back. And he has no humans in his castle. All his servants are strange people. They just walk through walls and go through mirrors. And so the only human he has at his disposal is Gulliver, and he sort of drugs him and keeps him there as long as he can. In the meantime, he keeps bringing back historical characters. Gulliver gets on to the idea, and in order to escape, he decides to summon all of them together, and he makes a mayhem of this place.
So this place, where are we in fact today?
Today we are shooting in the actual location. We're near Newmarket, which is a place which is familiar to me because it's got racing horses. And in the film we're in the Palace of the Sorcerer, which is this wonderful building behind us, which was built, I believe, by an Indian Maharaja sometime, the turn of the century.
There's a fair amount of special effects in Gulliver's Travels. What effects are we using to summon up the past?
Yes, I don't know exactly how the special effects that are used in these scenes are actually invented, but we have a specialist, and what we're supposed to see, for example, Alexander the Great come through that mirror, that from nowhere. He appears, his hand comes out through the mirror, and then his whole body comes out. I don't know how they do that.
How difficult, therefore, is it to act, to essentially what we saw today, which was you're acting to nothing?
Well, the difficulty of acting in this sort of film in general is that you mustn't base yourself on reality. You're in a world of fantasy, but you mustn't either do false things. In other words, you're trying to do something that has a certain reality within the irreality of the whole film, of the whole situation. It's like being a character in Alice in Wonderland, really. Villains are not terribly villainous. They're only villainous in so much as they're not as nice as the nice people.
Have you? Obviously, you were aware of Jonathan Swift's novel. Did you read it before doing the part?
Oh, it was one of the first things I ever read. I think I read it. No, I read probably Treasure Island before and some of Jules Verne, but I read Gulliver's Travels. I think around 14 or 15 years, when I was 14 or 15 years old.
And how close to the story are we sticking in this film version?
I think we have all the best things in Gulliver's Travels. In other words, it's a selection of the best things in it, because the whole thing is very long, of course. This film is long, but we've selected, I think they've selected the best parts of the book.
So what attracted you to the part of the Sorcerer?
What attracted me to the film in general was its quality. I mean, I read the script and I thought it was a very high quality script. It's nothing like anything that's your normal fare which you see in television usually. I'm not being overly critical of television, but I think it is an exceptionally well written script, very literate. And so I was very happy to be part of it. And it's a very, very interesting part, very colourful. It's short, but it's got some nice things in it.
The original novel, going back to the novel for a second, was written in 1726. Does it still have the same appeal today? Will it appeal to a modern audience?
Oh, I think that Gulliver's Travels is universal. It will always appeal to people. These things have they have no life. I mean, death. They have no death. They are eternal. These pieces are fantastic. The Alice in Wonderland never will die. A lot of the good plays will never die. That's why the theatre is still alive in spite of everything, because the plays don't die. And some of these novels don't die, especially the ones that are addressed to a universal audience. I mean, this is not a novel that only English people understand, or only French, or only Europeans. If you read it, and if you're a Japanese boy, you love it. It's universal.
You're working with Ted Danson, obviously, in the lead role. What do you think Ted Danson brings to the role of Gulliver?
Well, I think I think Ted Danson was a wonderful choice for Gulliver, because the film is mainly cast with, let's say, mainly with English or British actors, rather people who are accustomed to working in the British industry, and therefore he brings a freshness. He's different, which he should be. So all the other characters, like the Lilliputians, the people who are played by British actors, seem strange by comparison with Ted, who is American and brings the freshness and the naivete of Gulliver that he should have. And so it makes the other characters seem strange because they're not of the same culture in a sort of way. Or height, yes, indeed. No, Peter O'Toole is very high.
I was going to ask you about that. It seems to have been cast partly from the David Lean stable. You're working with some actors you've worked with before, I believe, in this.
Yes, but not. I don't get to meet the actors with whom I've worked before in this film. In other words, Peter O'Toole is in the film, but we don't get to do anything together. He's a different episode, a different part of the adventure of Gulliver. But we saw each other and we talked about it, and he enjoyed very much. He's finished playing his part already, and he enjoyed doing it very much. I saw photographs of him. He looked terrific in them.
Geraldine Chaplin?
Of course, Geraldine. But Geraldine Chaplin is also in the film, and I don't have anything to do with her. It's rather sad. I wish our paths would cross.
This is for television. Is it filmed on a typically small TV scale, or does it?
Well, it doesn't look like it's filmed on a small TV scale. This because when you look outside, there's as many trucks as there were when we were making Dr. Zhivago or something. It's a huge unit, and it's very lavish, and we do the takes many times. Usually in television they have you shoot very quickly because they want to save money and time, but here we do the number of takes we need in order to get it right. So, and we're taking our time doing it. This usually is the great luxury, which means that it's not just a cheap television film.